Maybe
Sure,
that's
that
why I
makes
hate
sense.
subdivisions, because I'd want to do it all myself, and I don't. Maybe if I brought in
Right.
some good partners, it'd be easy. 20 years, because people will call me from everywhere in the world, in the country. Hey, what's land selling for down? I'm 61 years old, so I'm a little bit of smart aleck now. I'm not quite as patient as I used to be, and I'll go, well, what are cars selling for where you are? They're great people. They do what they do really well. I just not any good at what they do, so I do what I do, and I wish they'd stay over there and us stay over here. I'm not missing a sale because I didn't say, hey, this is a dream property, won't last long, hurry, come see it.
All right, here we go. This is going to be an exciting episode here. We've got Pat Porter joining us, and Pat Porter has done a million things, but he is we're very fortunate to have him on the show because he's going to bring a ton of value to everybody, especially working in rural land. So, Pat, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
I'm glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Pat, you're based out of Louisiana?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. For some of our listeners, if you don't mind, just give a little bit of a background because I don't want to totally butcher it. But tell us a little bit about what you've done in your history and how you got to where you are.
Well, without starting with, I was born a small child, and I won't go that far back. I'm a broker for Recland Realty. I started Recland. I have a partner. He and I started it. In fact, he's down the hall here in our building. February 2010. And so I've been running Recland since then. Prior to that, I was a real estate agent before I got my broker's license, just selling land for a local company that really just focused on farmland. And then prior to that, my partner and I, my business partner, like I mentioned a second ago, he and I were buying and selling our own deals. Just finding tracks that we liked and trying to flip them, and just kind of learning about it as investors, just small time investors. And so one thing kind of led to the other. We're still investors and buy and sell a lot of property on our own, and this much time running rec land, and then this much time looking at stuff and for our own investment deals.
Yeah, very cool. So in the investing part of your business, what does that team look like? Is that you running everything start to finish, or do you have some people that are helping you out on the team?
On the investment stuff, it's really deals that kind of come across or hit my radar screen just because of the business that we're in. And I'll get with Chuck or some of the other guys in our investment group and go, hey, here's a big track or a little track, that kind of fits what we're looking for. It all falls on my shoulders. If I say, hey, we can buy it for this and sell it for this, 9 times out of 10, they're all, hey, well, go ahead, whatever you think. If it's a big deal, I insist on dragging them along too, because I don't want the burden of the mistake to rest just on me when we're talking about, real serious money. But for the most part, it's me. I'll run all the traps and then just bring it to the investment group, and they'll throw their 2 cents in, and we just kind of move forward or back off from there. But most deals are me saying, hey, here's what we got to do, and let's do it. And they're off there, hey, let's do it.
Yeah, and so these deals that come across your desk because you have your brokerage, are you pretty hyper local focused? Are you just doing stuff in your kind of area that you know really well, or do you expand out and do stuff in other markets?
That's a good question. We're licensed in 7 states, Reclands in 7 states. We're real active in 4, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Texas. We do things in the Midwest, Missouri and Iowa. I just, I only have one active Missouri guy right now, so it's slowed down a lot. I haven't done a deal in Iowa in several years, just because we just don't have boots on the ground. I can't go list and sell, 40 acres in North Missouri. It's just not feasible anymore. It's too far. So I've got good boots on the ground in the Arklamis and in Texas, and so we stay real busy there. When I say boots
Yeah.
on the ground, I'm talking about licensed agents that work for Recland. Calls come into the office and I'll farm those listings out to whoever's in that part of the country. Or if it's a certain type of listing, I go, hey, I'm gonna give that to one of my foresters, or I'm gonna give that to one of the guys that's got farming operations behind him, that kind of thing. We just kind of make a decision who's the best person to represent it, but they got to be close by.
Right, right. Makes sense. Proximity is power for sure.
Yeah,
I think
anytime.
definitely. As far as the back to the investment side, would love to dig into that track for a little bit, and then maybe we talk about brokerage as well. When you guys are, structuring a deal to buy it, are you using all capital from your investment group where you're doing all cash deals? Are you using bank financing? Are you kind of doing a hybrid? What's an average deal look like for you?
The answer to that question is yes. All of the above. It really is a function of, because we have deals going all the time. And so, sometimes a little small deal will roll in and we're so stretched out. We got to go, golly, okay, we can come up with this much cash. We'll use a lender for this. Any big deal, we're always using the lender just to kind of leverage some of the cash. These smaller 20s, 40s, 80s, we try to do all those in cash as often as we can. Um, it really just depends on the size of the deal. We try to do cash, but at some point we want to hang on to cash. We'll use a lender to leverage that. And there's
Sure,
really
that
no
makes sense.
magic cutoff. It just depends on what's today. Today's Thursday. Do we have any money today? That kind of thing. Because you know how cash
Absolutely.
is. Cash comes and goes in waves. So
Yeah, I think that's the standard in transactions when you're not Blackstone or something like that, so that makes sense to me.
yeah,
Um,
it's so easy to do deals, and well, it's easier when straight up cash deal. The way our investment group's set up and the folks that are in it, if we use a lender, it's almost a cash deal because they can put the thing together so quick. It's not
yeah,
a sit back for 3 weeks and hope and wait and see do we get the money. We kind of know what we're dealing with anytime we go into a deal. The seller, the seller's never put off if we're using a lender because we've already got everything in place, and that's not going to be contingent on an appraisal. It's not going to have a bunch of normal um, civilian contingencies that other people are going to have in a deal because we're pros. We've done it a million times. You know, and so we try to keep the deal real simple for the seller, even if we are using a lender, because we don't want that to throw a wrench in it. Does that make any sense?
yeah, yeah. We try to make it as simple as well too, just to
Yes.
make sure that it's clean and easy, and we're not throwing in a bunch of contingencies and making the sellers' lives a pain, and having them worry about is this even going to close? So
Exactly. As a dealing with customers as a broker for 15 odd years, if I said it once, I've said it a million times, guys. If you want to sell your property, sell your property, and the way to do that is to make it as easy as possible. Because before somebody shells out a half a million, three-quarters of $1 million, it's already a real serious deal. Don't complicate it with a bunch of nickel and dimey BSy kind of stuff you've seen on the internet or on late night TV. Make it as simple as possible. And so I try to practice what I preach when I put a contract or an offer together on something. I'm going, if I'm the seller, how would I want to view this favorably? And I try to add those elements. It's just a
makes
no brainer
sense.
to me. Make the deal easy for the seller.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And with your lender or lenders, are you using banks, credits unions? Do you kind of work with one lender or do you work with a whole bunch of them and just kind of take what the best offer is when you're getting a loan?
We have several lenders we work with, and they're all just straight up banks. Um, we use lenders, a couple of them that are part of the farm credit system, part of the federal, land land bank. You've heard that phrase before. Every state has got a credit farm system, uh, banks in them, lenders in them. They're all different names. Here in Louisiana, we got the Louisiana Land Bank, Southern Farm Credit. In Texas, you got Heritage, you got First South. I mean, it depends on what state you're in. They all have different names. So we use a lot of those lenders because they understand rural real estate. They kind of know, they know what they're loaning on. They don't have to ask a bunch of questions. We never take anything to like a, well, I won't name names, but the big commercial banks that run big ads on TV, they're great at selling jet skis and houses, but they're not any good at this.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. With the deals that you're doing, I'm guessing it's all of the above, but I'm sure it's a mix of flips. But are you doing some value add where you're doing some subdivides, both minor, major? Are you doing improvements, putting any sort of roads or infrastructure in? What's like, what are your deals looking like when you're doing the investments?
Yeah, and you knew when you asked the question, it's sort of each deal drives that, because some of them are just a straight up flip. Most of the time, we're doing some value add because that's just how you build in profit in today's this day and time. There's very few deals out there that you can go just buy them the way they are, turn right back around and sell them, for a big profit without doing something. There's very little of that. And there's some, but very little. So we do a lot of value add, even if it's because there's so much rural real estate, even if it's cut some or all the timber, build a road in so that a person can go out there and say, hey, I can put my home right here. Or, yeah, I can fence that off for a pasture or build a lake right there. We try to do some things to help people with the imagination part of it. Some people can't, you can tell them all the great things they can do, but some people have a hard time really seeing that because they don't understand the terrain, the topography. We do it every day, so I can, it's second nature. So what I try to do is pull back enough curtains, do enough things where they can go, oh yeah, I see exactly what you're talking about. Here's my road. They don't have to envision where the road is. There it is. Uh, there's the hill that the house can be on. It's already cleared off, that kind of thing. And we bought some tracks that we've done some subdivisions. I hate them. I hate subdivisions with a passion. Just beat me with a stick, even though that's where the best money is, honestly. They're just a pain. And so my partner down the hall there, Chuck, he kind of handles all those when we buy those kind of deals. He'll run
Yeah.
the subdivision part of it, and I'll run the marketing, selling it part of it.
Yes.
That's
Okay. Sounds like a good partnership.
Yeah, I hate a
that,
subdivision. I hate
good
them.
partnership. Yeah, real quick, Pat, I don't want to skip over this too much because I think this is really important. I mean, people typically don't hear much in our space with vacant land, the fact that you're able to get financing on it. So, can you just kind of highlight what types of properties banks are willing to finance and then just some of the terms around that, like a loan to value and I imagine at this point you guys have strong relationships with a lot of these lenders and so they know that you guys can perform and they've underwritten the deal with you, but can you just talk about that piece a little bit?
I sure can. It's a good question. The thing that I'll build in advance on the answer is I'm only familiar with this part of the world. Um, the fact that I hear that question and I've heard it in different ways from other people in different parts of the country makes me wonder: are lenders, do they uh, are they operating with different concepts in mind in different parts of the country? Because here it's a no brainer. If you want to buy 3 acres or 3,000, the process is the same. I can point you to 6 or 8 lenders right here that will finance it for you, and you'll have almost all of the loan products that you would have if you were, financing a 3 bedroom, 2 bath ranch house on 131 Elm Street. I tell everybody, yeah, they're going to get a down payment. It's usually 15 or 20%, depending on your financials. And, um, you can finance it for 15, 20. There's even 30-year products out there. That's the same speech I give people every week when they're entering into a deal and want information on a lender. I'll send them the names of some banks that I know will treat them well, and it's their job to shop them. What they're going to find out is the terms are almost exactly the same bank to bank because the products have gotten so consistent now. It's not a land is the forgive the phrase, land is not the redheaded stepchild thing anymore. It's just another asset to loan on. And so all the products are almost similar. If that makes any sense to you, and 15-20% down, you can get whatever terms you want. Interest rates a
Yeah.
touch higher than a mortgage. I've noticed that. Home mortgages are X, and undeveloped land, it's usually X plus a touch.
Yeah, and I think that's just really important to hear, right? That there are alternative options out there. You don't have to have cash to buy these properties if you're underwriting it correctly and you're getting it for the right price. And the bank is obviously going to make sure that the value is there. But I mean, there are banks out there that are willing to lend on vacant land.
Tons of them. I'm surprised. Again, this is ignorance, and I'm willing to admit that. Where somebody that's maybe listening to this, where they are, they might have an issue here in our part of the world. The timber belt, ag belt. It's just such a rural part of the whole country. I never knew that was a problem. I can go find 8 banks right now in the next 5 minutes that'll loan you money if you got good financials, and they'll
Very cool.
15 or 20% down. Sometimes a little less if it's a great deal, but usually 15-20% down.
Yeah. So then the other piece that I think is really great for people to hear is you have an investment group, right? Can you talk a little bit about is this friends and family, and how did you guys put it together, and how did it start, and how did it get to where it is today?
Um, it's going to be different for everybody, of course, but the way it started for us was, we were finding little deals, buying them ourselves, selling them, and you start having a little success. And nobody was getting rich. It was just making deals, good deals, flipping them, just like people do with houses. And then we all have friends, business acquaintances. So, hey man, next time you find a deal like that, call me. I like. So we got a lot of people who are, next time you find a good deal like that, they want in on the winners. And of course they do. We we just had a few winners. They realized we were pretty good at this. It's not hard. We just kind of basic, and then on bigger deals where maybe we didn't want to take on all the risk. Okay, well, hey, well, let's bring in so and so and so and so. They said they wanted in, and once they've been in a deal and we've done well on it, they're automatic for the next one. And so our investment group has grown that we just kind of call or bring in who we need when we need them. It's not like there's 20 guys out there and they're all in on every deal. No, we might have this guy and this guy on this deal, and this guy and this guy on that deal. Every once in a while, we got to call in all the troops if it's a big package of things where we really need a lot of strength.
Yeah, that's really cool that you put together a group of folks that can do that with you, and also you can tap some here for one deal, tap some here for another deal, and you probably know their profiles and what they want to be in at, or just the ones that you want to be partners on for certain deals.
Yeah,
We've seen that too. Some partners add a lot of value, and they're not just the financier, and some partners are just the financiers. They're just dropping money in,
yeah.
and that helps, especially when you're coming into deals that are subdivide deals. Some folks can really add a lot of value there, and some folks are just, hey, we'll be a lender.
Well, I need to get some of your folks that add some value, and we'll get them in our mix. These guys, and I don't say that in a bad way. We kind of like it that way. I mentioned Chuck's name. He and I partners in rec land and partners in some other things. He and I drive the bus. We like it that way because I can handle the land side and the marketing side and all that. He can kind of keep the partners all up to speed and all on the same page. But at the end of the day, we don't call them with every offer, every deal. We just we run the deal and we send them their check. Keep them in the loop, that kind of deal. I don't want them to be too hands on. I'm a little bit like that, so
Sure,
maybe
sure,
that's
that
why I
makes
hate
sense.
subdivisions, because I'd want to do it all myself, and I don't know how. I'm not good at it, so maybe that's why I hate it. Maybe if I brought in
Right.
some good partners, it'd be easier.
Yeah, yeah. We've thought about just getting a project manager purely for that. But it sounds like that's Chuck for you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Because
So
he
cool.
kind of enjoys that. He, he's a he's a he manages that stuff well. He sure does.
Right, right. When you're looking at some of these value adds for smaller properties, that are just not smaller, but just flips. You're not going to cut them up. Um, you mentioned clearing out a little bit of land, maybe mulching a path, clearing a home site. I mean, in your region, it sounds like, I mean, you're spanning a lot of states, but in your region that you're investing in, are there properties that are heavily wooded? Because you mentioned timber, and I know some areas of the country, it's like that's not even a consideration. Some areas, timber's something that you can actually harvest off the property and sell, and recap some of your initial investment just there, but you're also adding value at the same time by clearing out a spot that someone that's going to be an end buyer can visualize and see, oh, okay, cool, I see the home site. Like, is that what you're experiencing when you're doing a simple flip like that and you do some value add where you timber the property? Are you able to sell it? Are you able to do something like that where you make a little money back?
Absolutely. That's one of our that's kind of a sweet spot. Um, Meaning that, we do those deals in our sleep, just coming and going with the timber play. Cause I'm not a forester, but I've got several of them that work with me. We've got a couple of partners that are foresters in some deals. I know more than the average bear on timber, so I'm able to kind of, get us to second base on a track, and then, realize, hey, it's a good enough deal. There's enough timber out here, but let me bring in one of my forester partners and let him put the fine tune the numbers on the timber, so that we know what we need to cut, how much to get certain dollars back. And then that just, once we know how much we're getting back on that, it really makes the rest of the deal a lot simpler to pencil out. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's our sweet spot, is cutting timber and taking a straight up timberland track and taking it to another higher and better use, so we get more money out of it. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. As simple as that is, they don't know how to do it. And some of it is just they're afraid to do it, because it is, if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose a lot of money and have a lot of heartache in a hurry. But
Well, I think one of the things that's, you're doing well is you're staying in a geographic region where you're building a team that doesn't need to be part of your internal team where you're spending money on their salary every month, but you know that, hey, if you're looking at it, I mean, let's just actually break it down real quick and just use some round numbers. You see a property and you think that, hey, if this property is cleared off a little bit and it's the highest and best use is a home site, it's gonna sell for $100,000. But I can buy it now for $50,000. So if I buy it and then I clear a little timber off it potentially, you're looking at it through your eyes and you're going, okay, I think there's a good chance that we can timber this. Your next call is, after you get that property under contract, are you saying, okay, I'm going to call the forester and have him go out there and tell me, like, hey, can I timber this? And if so, how much could we get back? Is that sort of your next consideration? And then he or she will tell you, yeah, I think you could timber it and get $15,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't do exactly like that, but I'm able to go look at a product, because I'm always sort of the first line of defense. Everything comes through me, and if something starts to look right, I'll go look at it, and I know how the market is well enough, and I understand wood type and size well enough, in the ground type, that I can go, golly, yeah, we can come in here, we can cut about 750 an acre off of this, or 600 or 1200, and I'll have that ballpark number, and then I'll pencil out the deal, and if it works with my numbers, I'll then call one of the other guys and go, "Hey, go take a look at this. I'm not gonna tell you what I think, I wanna hear what you think, and we'll compare notes." And they're always gonna come back usually a little higher than me, because I'm pretty conservative on that, for obvious reasons, because a lot of time when I pick up the phone and call these guys to buy something, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say, "Do it." So I need to be pretty right. So I always err on the conservative side. And so once I'm comfortable with the deal, I'll then get the forester or one of the other guys to go look, to really dial it in. And I've been wrong before, really low, where I'm going, "Oh, heck, we definitely don't need to let this deal get away." And I'm on the phone fast as I can to get it firmed up. But most of the time they're confirming what I've seen, and we kind of go forward from there.
Yeah, and I actually, this is so intriguing because we haven't done any of this with the timber, and
But aren't you guys are mostly in the West, Pacific Northwest? Or, well, I know you're on the West Coast. You're in Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah, Colorado and California, but we do deals nationwide, but we haven't done any of the timber. I mean, I know it's hanging out there, and we've talked to folks about it, but we haven't done it before. So you mentioned a price per acre. You know, I can get 650, 700 per acre. But then I imagine like, okay, cool. I'm looking at it down from say Land ID. You're probably not going to like say there's 5 acres. You're not going to timber the whole thing, would you? You'd timber part of it, maybe leave some of the trees so that the home site has some, you know, some trees around it, or do you? I mean, I know every deal is different, but do you map it out on something like Land ID and say, okay, the cumulative amount that we would want to take off here is X?
No, we look at it we get to that point where we're buying a timberland tract, and part of the deal is we're going to cut we're going to cut timber. I, I 100% go into best practices, timberland best practice. We cut it based on best practices, and that in and of itself covers a lot of the bases that you just mentioned right there. And then from there, I'll tell like uh, Coy. I'll just use his name. He's one of the guys that cuts a lot of timber for us and is actually partners in some. You know, I'll say, hey, Coy, let's make this. We call it a real estate cut. There's no such thing, but he knows what I mean. We know what each other when we say that. If I said, hey, leave a basal area of 60 or 70, he knows exactly what that is. Timberland cut is, yeah, I know what you mean. Um, so yeah, we don't map it out precisely. We let best practices govern us, and then we'll sort of tweak it as we go a little bit. I've got a couple of deals going right now that Corey's actually involved in. One, we completely clear cut everything. I mean everything. The other, we cut that $700 an acre off of, and if you went out there, it's still a great stand of pine timber. Somebody can still grow that pine out as an investment and have the home site place and have a great place to hunt. And we took $650, $700 an acre out of it. So the
Love that.
track really, the type of track, the timber, all of that really drives how we go about cutting it. But once we show up with the crew to cut, we use straight up best practices because we want to leave
Gotcha.
it. But even if my plan's great, great. But if my plan's wrong, I still want to leave the ground the way it needs to be left for timber management.
Right.
That makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Again,
Yeah, I
it's
really
another
like
one
that.
of those. Hey, there's so many different ways to answer the question. I don't mean to always be obfuscating, but there really are a lot of variables.
Land is every piece of land is different, and so you know people that look at it like it's just a widget from China, that's one way to do it because they're just flipping or whatever. But then you can actually get really deep into each piece and do, you can look for highest and best use, you can look for the best way to market it and try to marry all of them. So you're making the best investment and leaving the ground in great condition.
Yeah,
So I
I've
like
said
that.
it a million. You said it a cool way. It's not another widget from China. I've been saying for 20 years because people will call me from everywhere in the world, in the country. Hey, what's land selling for down? I'm 61 years old, so I'm a little bit of smart aleck now. I'm not quite as patient as I used to be. And I'll go, well, what are cars selling for where you are? And I won't say another word. And they'll go, well, you talking about a sports car or a junker or and I go, well, exactly. I mean, what kind of land are you talking about? Every acre is created differently, you know. So
Yeah, yeah,
that,
That's such
totally.
a good counter to that.
I
That's so
used to
good.
just kind of bite my tongue, but now I'll go, hey, what are cars selling for where you're at? You know, it communicates it without having to communicate it, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely.
another
One
widget
thing
from
too.
China, I like that.
One thing that I really like that you're doing is you're bringing folks that are in the business, in different areas of the business, like a forester. You're bringing them into the deals. It sounds like so. You're kind of incentivizing them to, you know, be there for you and really look at it through the eyes of an investor too. I think that's super smart. Like, are you doing that with soil scientists and well drillers and other folks out there?
We've got a number of people. I got a number of people that are on our team as agents that are really, they come from great backgrounds, different, diverse, you know, uh, actual farmers, seed and chemical salesmen, uh, mitigation attorneys, of course, the forester, straight up, just investors, business guys. So there's a whole wealth of information I've got available on my phone just because they're kind of part of our land agent group. And of course, outside of that, I was on the phone today asking a guy's opinion of something just because I've known him for years, you know, in all of the categories you mentioned and others, appraisers and wells and guys at the NRCS office, for soils and all of that. So the more you do it, and the longer you're doing it, the better, in my opinion, the better you ought to get at it because you got more resources available. You got more people that you can, bump up and get information from.
Yeah, the Rolodex gets strong.
To make a deal, especially with real estate, because real estate's not buying a gallon of milk, it can get expensive. To make a deal without just running all your traps for information is you got to be either really, really good or really, really arrogant. I feel like
Right,
most of the
right.
time I know the answers, but I want them confirmed because I don't, I'm gonna screw up sometimes.
Yeah. What are some of the tools that you use for when you're looking at a property and you're not boots on the ground on it yet? You're just going to do some analysis and, look at it from your desktop at that point. Are there any things that you or any tools that you really like to look at and, look at for soils and kind of just check the temperature? Are the soils good here or whatever the case may be, utilities, etc.
Yeah. Of course, I use a mapping software. I think you mentioned one. If it's, I don't know what best rules for saying things and mentioning stuff, and so that's why I'm not trying to not mention their name, but I just don't know if it's appropriate. But
No, yeah, yeah. No, it's
oh,
okay.
Land
Go ahead.
ID. I've got Land ID. It's up. It's always up. There's
Yeah.
a lot of good features in it that I use. I also use it for mapping for all of our listings. Every listing you should ever see, it's pulling from Land ID on the map. I, I'll also use the Google Earth feature only so that I can go back because it goes back to 1985 where you can see because we have a lot of stuff along the Mississippi River here, and it's great to see how this property reacted to flood events over the past decades.
Mm.
That's a huge one. I use it quite a bit if I need to see some historical views. Um,
Google Earth desktop, right? Not
yeah,
the online version. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. You
yeah,
can do the
exactly.
little timeline drag.
Just because the timeline, and I only go there really just for the timeline. Anything else I need aerial wise, I'm at Land ID. For topos, and it just shows you so many overlays that are useful. Um, I had we got a large property for sale in Texas, and I had a guy call and ask proximity to transmission lines, and I go,
Mm.
man, I don't know. Oh, wait a minute, I may know. And sure enough, Land ID has got for that part of there in Texas, it shows every transmission line. It was right there. So I was able to print out a map and send it to him. I had no idea. So anyway, it's a great tool. I use NRCS website a good bit. I use it for all the soil data. I know Land ID does that. It pulls from the NRCS, but the NRCS it's a cumbersome website, but the the soil data is rock solid, and that's what everybody uses. So I go there. That's the source. Uh, I use it for farms and for timberland because you can get the site index for all the merchantable species of trees that we grow in our part of the world. So that's a valuable tool. Uh, it is for timber investors. Of course, I use all of the online clerk of court and assessors and that sort of thing. Be getting into the weeds past that.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, no, Land ID is great. I always ask that because primarily because of the soils and transmission line and forestry questions that you just brought up. Like Land ID has the soils overlay, but the NRCS is, it's the gold standard. So it's
yeah,
going to be better for you on that. And then, we end up having to a lot of times go to the county sites, and get sort of the latest greatest in certain situations. But Land ID is awesome. It's great. We've seen it since I think the first time we came across it was maybe 2016, 17. I remember we were on a property in Wyoming, and the guy brought it up on his tablet. Remember that, Mike?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was that 320 acre property out there.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. You ever use Onyx?
Well,
Onyx
I was just
Maps?
about to
Onyx?
mention that Onyx and Land ID are real similar in that they pull parcel data. So all of the civilians in our world, they all have Onyx or on their phone, and they'll, hey, I'm looking at this map on this thing on Onyx, and it says so and so and so and so. So I hear that all the time. It seems to be what your average guy uses out there on their phone. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have it just to cross reference some things, but Land ID is my go to.
Yeah, they've done a really good job, especially working to integrate with brokers and the marketability so that you guys have the tools so that you can show that to the consumers.
Yeah. And so many of the land sites, the main subscription sites that are out there, Land ID is obviously the gold standard with the software mapping because they all have a place for it. For you, put your Land ID URL or embed the code. I don't see that. I didn't see that with some of the versions that are still out there, but some earlier versions, I don't guess they really made as big a splash as Land ID.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to turn this into a commercial for them, but they do it's a good job for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
no,
think
they do
everybody in
great.
the industry, they know them and they like them. So, including us. Let's talk about selling the property, and you're going to put it back on the market, whether you bought it or you're going to list it for someone. I mean, there's again, it's back to the whole widget from China, or what's the car selling for? But the person that's owned the property maybe for, it came down through the family, and they've owned the property for a long time, and you're looking at it and maybe it doesn't have a recent survey, and it's just been a raw piece of land. They've never really spent much time on it. It's just been in their family for generations. I mean, how are you approaching those conversations with folks? Do you tell them like, hey, let's do some improvements to this, let's invest maybe a grand or 2 grand, and then let's sell it? Or is it like, hey, let's just pop it on the market and see what happens? And we'll simplify this to a standard piece of land that does have those characteristics that you were talking about. It's like, hey, if you were going to buy it, you would cut some trees down, you timber it a little bit, you might get a soil study, and you might create a little home site, maybe even put a little decorative fence up out front.
Yeah. Unlike a lot of the residential agents, and our family is friends with too many of them to count. I mean, they're great people. They do what they do really well. I just not any good at what they do, so I do what I do, and I wish they'd stay over there and us stay over here. Uh, Unlike a residential agent, I say never, I seldom make suggestions on what they need to do because uh, put it in a road, heck, even put it in a culvert, is expensive for people that don't have equipment or don't know how to do it. To simply go have some of the timber cut is not just a thing to do. It's either kind of all in or all out, because most timber operators, they don't cut small tracts. There's not enough volume there. So it's not like, hey, just call your local timber guy and have him cut a few trees. So, if they ask, hey, is there anything you see that I need to do? I'll tell them what I think within some reason. The biggest thing I encourage people to do, because they can all do it just about, if they're selling a piece of property, whether it's 20 acres, 40, 200, or bigger, is to bush hog the trails. Just to go in, especially this time of the year when everything is greened up and growing up, just go in there and clip all the trails one time so that when I go show the property to somebody, it's a little more pleasant. Fix the gate. I mean, that you can do that for almost free, and just driving up to the gate with the gate not hanging on one hand, just whatever little bit of sexying up or curb appeal you can give it without spending any serious money, I encourage them to do that. Anything that's going to require renting, if it's an 86-year-old lady like I'm dealing with in San Diego, as a matter of fact, she doesn't have the money or the ability to do anything on these 3 properties I'm selling for her. So you follow what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
I can sense that it's something doable and easy, I'll ask them to consider it. If not, I don't fool with it. An exception to my own what I just said is I listed 4 properties for this family. They're spread out all over the South. It's an old estate. It's an estate that I'm selling for them. And we had a huge ice storm that came through in January. I mean, massive for our part of the country, devastating in places because, ice breaks off those pine trees, I mean, it's just like a bomb went off in certain places. And it happened to do it on one of their tracks. And all of the trails that were in there looked like a state park prior to the ice storm. I could barely get through the gate. I could not get around on 157 acres of property at all. And so I found a guy that could do the dozer work, could come in and spend 2 days just to push out the trails, just to sweep out the trails. I said, guys, you're wanting X number of dollars for this property and it's worth it, but I got to be able to get somebody around on it or we'll never sell that for that kind of money. So I talked him into spending, 2 days worth of work, 2 days worth of dozer work, but it was a check. I'd already lined up the guy, vouched for him because I knew who it was, explained what they were going to do, and I said, it's going to cost this much money. Send me a check payable to this guy, and I'll give it to him when he's done. So there are times when I would need to ask, but also know that these people have the means to do it. It wasn't going to put them in a burden, any kind of bind for a few $1,000s dozer work. And it was absolutely necessary for this track. There was no getting around it on this property. I did a lot of talking there, but just to communicate, it's track dependent and client dependent from my point of view.
Yeah. And that's such a good example because you're putting in a couple $1,000s of dozer work. And what would you, just off the top of your head, total rough guess, estimate that value creation was by being able to give the vision and any prospective buyer the sense of, okay, now I can get around the property, I can see this. I mean, that has to be 10x.
It's huge, yeah. And the thing is, it's not increasing the price that we're asking for the property. It's making it where we can justify that price that we're asking for the property because it's a state park looking track. It's almost 160 acres. So it's a big track for a rural home site, but it's gorgeous and it's got all the pieces to it that people are going to want. It's the kind of place somebody can put a $750,000, $1 million home, which in our world, that's a lot of home here in North Louisiana. They could put a house like that there and it fit. So the couple $1,000s to sweep it out really just helps us to get what we were originally going to ask for it, minus some of the timber loss. We're going to have to net that out. But we could be selling it for a third of that price that we're asking for it now. But if I can't get a man out there and show it to him, he said, Pat, it's a great price, but I can't see it. So it really was a necessity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do want to put a little plug in for you here, Pat, because I think it's pretty impressive. You've written 8 books, and they're available on Amazon and ebook and audio with 4 of them. But one of your latest books is How to Make Money Selling Land. And you gave our listeners an incredible offer where they can get this book for free if they just send you an email to office@recland.net. So just talking about that book, How to Make Money by Selling Land, give us maybe a little teaser and maybe, one of the nuggets that you're sharing with people in there as to how they can actually do this themselves.
All right. Hang on. How to Make Money by Selling Land. My tips for buying and selling small rural tracts for profit. This is not about some of the big stuff we've done with investment groups. There's several thousand acres. And the way I did this book, I had 12 deals that I personally did, 12 separate properties. And I took a kind of a day in, day out activity or lesson I learned in each one of those 12 different deals and kind of made that a topic. So it's going to have stuff in here about, like I'll just read you some of the contents, about buying without seeing. Should a person do that? Have an exit plan, to survey or not to survey. Adding acreage to maximize value. Make the right kind of improvements. Each one of the 12 deals that I think it took 14 months to get in and out of all 12 of those, but it was just the nuggets of what I think is decent information that apply to each one of those 12 deals, how I handled them, how we worked through it so that we could make a little money on all of those. We made good money on all 12 of those. Some we made, okay money. Some we did real well. But over the course of 12 deals, it was real solid. And it's just sort of practical, basic stuff for the average buyer, not a guy that's gonna, that just does this all day, every day, but how a regular person who might do a deal or two every couple of years, things they can learn and things that'll help them do better in their deals, help them learn how to find and recognize these deals. That's part of it too.
Well, I love that.
One thing to make some money on a deal. Okay, well, how'd you get in the deal? Pat, how'd you find that property? I get that question all the time. Well, I explained some of that in there.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's going to add so much value. I think people hear so much of the macro, and they hear, okay, I can buy a property and I can sell the property, but then to be able to really dive into the weeds, and you've got this case study now of 12 different properties that you did, and the uniqueness of each one of those deals, and being able to pull out all of the individual pieces, components that led to the success, or maybe a mistake that you would do differently, and you're sharing all of that wisdom so that they can just take that and apply it to all the opportunities that they're evaluating. That's where I think people are going to have a ton of value here.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And I think one of the chapters even talks about one of the a mistake, because there's one I can think of it now. It's a track we bought in Texas that we barely broke even, and I explained the reasons why, the things that went. I think it's in that book. I've done it somewhere, but it's not foolproof. Even when you're a pro, even when you follow all the advice and do everything right, at the end of the day, it's still easy to make a mistake.
I don't know. I mean,
Never
have you ever made a mistake, Mike?
Oh boy, we don't have enough time here.
We make mistakes.
Mistake is our middle name, man.
We don't have enough time.
Yeah, we can go deep on that. Let's talk about marketing and sales though, because I feel like that's where your real specialty is, and you've got a really cool YouTube channel, and so you know how to market and sell. As far as the marketing goes, though, how are you getting exposure to the property? How are you getting eyeballs to look at the property and move it quickly for the top dollar?
You talking about our own deals or listings or both?
Either one, because I imagine, are you listing your own deals in a lot of cases when you're the investor as well, or do you put that with someone else?
Well, I'll have one of the guys kind of be the agent for the deal, but yeah, I have Reclan, so that's a bullet that's always in the chamber, for advertising, even our own deals. I may have another agent represent it, so I don't have to be a dual agent, in the mix of it, that kind of thing. But yeah, we do our own properties just like we do. If you call me and say, "Hey, Pat, I want you to, I got 200 acres there in East Carroll Parish, I want you to sell for me." I'm gonna do whatever I do with yours, I'm doing with mine too. It's gonna, we use all of the subscriber sites. We're, a premium advertiser in all of them, so it gets a lot of eyeballs. Our website, I use a lot of all the social platforms. The thing is, I don't sell on our social platforms. There's a whole lecture in that. I sell on one of our social platforms, and I made a point to say in the profile, "Hey, this is not anything social here. This is just the listings. If you want social, if you want all the other stuff that you're used to seeing with Reclan, you got to go over there. Here, I'm just treating it like it's a digital classified. because that's a mistake. So worst way to sell stuff is to try to sell it on social media like that. Anyway, but I just use all the electronic stuff available. We have a pretty vast e-blast and text blast database. So any new listing, any price change or anything gets blasted out like that. Of course, everything is on social media, but it's just not hard sale in your face. Once in a lifetime. This moment won't be here forever. Won't last long. I don't do all that crap.
Yeah, yeah. You do have an advantage though. You've got a brokerage, and so then you have MLS access where some people don't, right? And so
Yeah.
you're a unique case where you want to go sell your land, like you can list it right there on the MLS with one of your agents, and you're getting all those eyeballs there. But then, so you also mentioned you're doing the land marketplaces. So is that land.com, land flip, land search? Like, is that what you were talking about
Yeah,
there?
keep going. So
Yeah.
land.com is the 800-pound gorilla, because Land Watch, Lands of America, all of that falls under the land.com umbrella. They're the big one. Then Land Flip is right there. And there's so many, I call them just B tier land sites out there now, and I'm part of some of them. Some of them receive a feed from some of the other places that we post things. So it ends up in places sometimes I didn't even know existed until I'll get an email or a text about it. But that's where we are primarily. I don't use the MLS because I'm not a member of a board in Louisiana anymore. I tried that years ago. It's just too much money for not enough squeeze, not enough juice for the squeeze, in my opinion. Because the people that buy our stuff are looking at it from all around the country, all around the world, not necessarily the guy down the street.
Okay, wait. So you're not posting it on the MLS, so it's not going on. Is it getting onto Redfin and Zillow?
Yes, it is because I use it's called My State MLS, and so I can post there. It's just a subscription. It's not a board membership, and their feed will go to the Realtor.coms, the Zillows, the Trulias, which a lot of sellers, they think that's the gold standard in selling stuff because of the residential folks, and they see these commercials on TV. So I subscribe to that site and I will put every listing on that site so it gets pushed to Realtor, Zillow, Trulia, only for the seller. I know
Yep.
the buyer's not coming from there. The odds of it coming from there are so small. But when the seller goes and looks it up and they say, "There's my property," that wreck lands on the job. No,
Oh man.
we're just it's I'm rolling my eyes because it's a routine thing. So
Yeah. Well, it's must be geographic because in some areas the MLS is like all powerful, and then in other areas like your area, it sounds like it's more the land marketplaces, I would guess.
it is, and the MLS is like I say, it just want enough juice in the squeeze.
Sure. Sure.
They're micromanaging every board's different. But so many of them, I call them the real estate Nazis. And that's just me. I know y'all,
Speaking our language.
and they know I call them that because they wanted me to be a member of the board, and I tell them no, it's just not going to work for me. And they ask why, and I explain why, and it makes perfect sense when they hear it. Just nobody ever tells them what we do and what they do. It's great. What they do is great, but it's just not for us. It's not how
Yeah.
we go about it.
So you're having folks that are coming in off the land marketplaces and or even social media, and they're getting driven to your website.
Absolutely.
And then they're reaching out, calling you, you're talking on the phone, emailing back and forth and all that. And then you got a big list that you get a new property and you're going to sell it. It's going out to your email newsletter or your email list, and then your text blast list. And then you're getting conversations going from there.
Correct. And there are a lot of agents. I got a couple deals that's firmed up this morning. Both of them have come from agents that are residential agents. They just swerved into it one way or the other, and they'll call on behalf of their customers. So I'm getting all of that, the business I would get anyway, without having to be a member across town. So
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the marketing piece is that's the part that you can have a lot of fun with, and there's a lot of folks that too that do the social thing where they are selling on social, so they're having those conversations directly on Facebook. We did that years ago, and we got completely exhausted because there was a zillion tire kickers,
Yeah.
hitting us up on Facebook Messenger, and it was insane. But it is a good place to get eyeballs, and I think the serious ones that go through there and go to your website and then reach out and call you on the phone, it's worth it to drive some traffic that way.
And the thing is, you can sell without selling on these social platforms. Because you can go look at a post and it may say, hey, Corey, John, whoever just listed such and such, 200-acre track in Bossier Parish. What makes this track unique is da 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 da, and I'll go off talking about something that'll be useful to the folks because I want it to be useful to them whether or not they're in the market to buy that property or not. And the reason being is I know that down the road, somewhere along the way, they may very well be in the market to buy something or sell something. And all I'm trying to do with social, all I'm trying to do is just be top of mind so that when they do get ready to do some business in whatever form or fashion or recommend somebody, they might remember us. And,
Mhm.
And they're not going to remember if all I'm doing is use car commercials in their face all the time about buy it in, won't last long, hurry, must see, dream property. I'm doing that. They're going to scroll right past every time and never get any value. So that's
Yeah.
could be wrong, but that's my philosophy on it. And I'll blame it on Gary Vaynerchuk. Years and years and years ago, listen, he wrote a book, Jab, 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 Hook. You remember that? Or you know it,
Oh, yeah.
read it?
Yeah.
The whole concept is instead of going for the big knockout punch, with the sales pitch, come buy this. It's jab, 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 jab. And every once in a while, you can throw the hook, but you sort of earned the right to at that point because you didn't come out
Mhm.
swinging for the fences with every post and with everything you do online. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. And the ad values are I mean, the jabs are the ad values, and
yes,
I think
absolutely. People know
you're
we
you're
sell
obvious.
land. I'm not high. It's not like, hey, what do these guys do? No, it's there. And the phone number is there everywhere, and the email is everywhere. I'm not missing a sale because I didn't say, hey, this is a dream property, won't last long. Hurry, come see it. I'm not going to do that. Plus, I'm a soft sell guy anyway, so it fits my personality.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think anybody likes selling and doing the hard sale thing. And this isn't the Wolf of Wall Street for sure. Especially rural land. It just does not the persona doesn't work, and
Exactly.
it doesn't need to.
And
So
if you're buying milk, you're going to go buy a gallon of milk once a week, twice a week. If you got growing boys like I do, that's a repeat. It's going to happen all the time. Yeah. So, but somebody buying and selling land, it may be a once in a lifetime deal, and it's only going to be when they're ready. So you can't force the issue by constantly hammering on them like a sales seminar type of thing. No, you just stay available, stay ready, and when they do call, you be there. That's my only goal is just for them to remember me, and when they call, for me to be able to jump immediately and take care of them. Because if they're ready now, they're looking. You better be ready when they're looking.
yeah, be top of mind. So yeah, and speaking of being top of mind and adding a lot of value, I mean, you've written these books, they're out there, they're for sale. You made a really special offer that we want to make sure that we drop in the show notes here for how folks can get your latest book, How to Make Money Selling Land. And so we'll put that in the show notes across all the platforms. And then you've got, a YouTube channel, which is great. I mean, you're all over the internet yourself, adding value left and right. But just real quick, just so it's verbal in the show notes for people, like what are the best places to find you in in the ethernet?
Of course, our website, recland.net, but that's just straight up all of our listings, and it's got some general information on it. Of course, Recland Talks YouTube channel. That's where all the information is going to be. We're Recland Realty, Facebook and Instagram, TikTok. That's where all just information is going to be about who we are, how we go about things, and just general tidbits about about land, and it's stuff I think's important because it's mostly me doing it. So, some people may look at it and go, "This is terrible." I'm sorry. It's just what I thought at the moment that may be useful to somebody. They're not slick, polished, super edited videos. It's what I think, when I think it, and where I am when I'm thinking it. So,
Authentic.
but it's worked well so far for us. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's important that anybody listen to this, if they need somebody in the states that you're in. What are the states that you guys operate in again?
Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Texas, Missouri, and Iowa. I say it in that order because that's kind of the order where we are.
Yeah. Well, if anybody needs help, selling some property or finding a good deal out there, then get in touch with Pat and his team, and they're going to be able to take really good care of you. So, Pat, can't thank you enough for coming on. It's been such a pleasure talking with you, and we may drag you back on here again in the future if you're willing.
Guy, happy to help any way I can. Just let me know. I hope something was useful to somebody, but I appreciate you guys letting me be here.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. No, this is great.
Thanks, Pat.